From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome comedian Rory Lutz. Rory is a born and bred New Yorker. He's a comic, writer, painter, and dad to a small and more well-behaved version of himself. He's a believer in the human connection and helping each other, and that laughter really is the best medicine. Rory hosts comedy shows from his uptown apartment and is venturing out to start a production company to bring consistent comedy to the neighborhood. We're going to talk to him about his life and comedy on and off stage, but first, let me welcome you, Rory, to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure's all yours.
Yes, it is, by the way. I'm just open to say that. So, how are you? What's going on?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. I'm loving the weather. It's finally turned. Like, it was hot, and now it's cool, and, like, this is perfect for me. And today I'm just hanging out with my kid, doing the podcast. It's a very chill day so far.
Well, we'll keep it that way.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we have one major thing in common. We like to bring people together through storytelling.
Yeah, that's one of the pleasures that I've found recently trying to produce shows. I didn't realize how much I actually like bringing the people together. Like, I've done shows and I've hung around. I'm very social outside, but the act of being the person who connects those people has been pretty cool.
Yeah. So what's your story, Rory? How did you find your way into comedy?
Like most guys, I got into comedy for the women, but apparently it was just one woman. No, like I got divorced and then I went through another breakup, and I just needed to kind of rewrite my script. It's like it's not so much a funny story, but I always wanted to be a comedian. I've always enjoyed making people laugh on like a very personal connection, like me and you sitting here. It was like the perfect example. Like, and then I just tried to translate it out. I needed to challenge myself. So they say that like public speaking is like the second most feared thing to do besides dying. So I was like, we'll just jump right into that, you know?
Well, there's no reason to fear dying. It's going to happen anyway.
You're not going to know when it happens either. I got news for you. It just happens.
Right. Exactly.
And then you find out if you're right or wrong about heaven or hell, right?
Do you?
Do I believe?
No, I'm saying, do you find out? Like, did somebody tell you something?
No. That's the point. That's the whole point. No one's told us anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you had some inside information you weren't sharing.
No, if I did, I'd be rich. Trust me.
Well, I was going to say, that's, you make a lot of friends pretty fast,
Yeah.
I think. Well, is your focus on both writing and performing, or do you take more joy in one over the other?
Well, I've always been a writer. Like, I went to college to write, and I've just always, I was writing poems when I was 10 years old. So I love writing, right? But performing is a new thing that I'm starting to. Of course, like I was nervous when I first started. Like I said, it was a challenge for me. I wasn't exactly happy to be doing it.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely, I've come to the point where performing is fun, and like I'm a natural performer. I'm learning how to do it. If I could pick one of the two, I'd pick a job writing, a full-time job writing for sitcoms or late night TV or even ghostwriting for other comedians. Like I really enjoy that, the writing aspect.
So why don't you do that?
I do it.
Well, there you go. So
I just don't do it as much as I probably should.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, for those of you who don't know, Rory has hosted regular comedy shows in his own uptown apartment. What made you take on the producing reins, since you like writing so much and performing? Producing's a whole different beast.
Yes. And I'm going to try to answer this question by not making as many people as mad as possible. I just had... like jumping into comedy, and now I'm in comedy clubs. So you can go to Broadway Comedy Club or like New York Comedy Club, or you could also go to comedy shows in like coffee shops. They're very different level. They're very levels to comedy in New York City. And starting out, I'm in the lower bracket of these shows, and I'm realizing that like I could do this in my apartment. Like I can draw people in my apartment, and I also wanted to produce like a unique venue and like a place where people could feel comfortable. And I know it's like apartment shows are like, people hear that and they're like, it's risky and it's weird. But it's been really nice. Like if people leave my show and they genuinely enjoy the whole atmosphere of like being together. And it's not like, you don't have $15 drinks $25 tickets.
How much do you charge for your drinks in your house?
$5 a drink.
Oh, that's pretty good.
$10 tickets, $5 a drink.
Nice.
But that was another point. A main point for me was to make it affordable.
Yeah.
Also, quality comics.
Well, it's a hassle too. I mean, for anybody who's ever walked to like the Gotham Comedy Club or whatever, and a lot of those guys, not all of them, and I'm not putting Gotham on the spot either, but I'm just saying a lot of those guys are pay to play.
Absolutely.
And it's like you're out there hustling and trying to get 10 people to show up to the show, or else they don't get booked, kind of thing. Which is, I mean, you have to be a producer in some kind of way in that respect. But I always felt terrible for the performer because it may not be their best strong suit to get people to come see them perform, let alone strangers, let alone friends.
Yes. And I've made the decision early in my career that I wouldn't do those, what they call bringer shows.
Yeah.
And as a producer, I don't ask anything of the comedians other than to show up.
Great.
That's it. Show up. I don't limit what they can say or what they can do because I've also vested the comics. A lot of places don't ask to see tapes of comedians. The first thing I do is I say, send me a 5-minute tape if you want a 10-minute spot. And I know the quality that I bring. And that's a big part of it for me, is to bring good comedians.
I feel like that's the most important thing as a curator of a show or producer, lack of a better term, is that you have to have that kind of following and trust from your audience and bringing people. Or else you're not going to be able to build on that, build that audience.
Absolutely.
So what do you look for when you curate a show? Is it strictly stand up, or do you let improv and variety performers take the stage and sketch?
So I usually have a musical act open up.
Okay.
Just to to loosen people up and stuff. My shows at this point are comedy, just comics. I would love to branch out and do more variety shows, and I've been exploring maybe doing themed comedy shows like women against men. I have this idea of like the tallest comedian in New York City. Only one guy gets to stay. Like.
So you just show up without saying anything, you get the job, apparently.
Yeah,
Until the next guy shows up, or
Until
girl.
the next guy. It's just whoever's taller, right, gets to stay in New York City. I'm doing a comedy contest on November 5th. I'm excited about that. The first day I put it online. I had like 11 people say I'd love to do it. So awesome. The list is getting longer day by day.
And now, are these strictly uptown-based comedians, or do you take them from all over the city?
All over. Where I've actually had people want to fly in from other states to do my show because they've spoken to other people who have had good times at my show. And again, I'm not bragging. I'm not bringing 30, 40 people in, but we do have fun shows. Yeah. So the answer to that is wherever you want to come from, I'm glad to have you.
That's really great. And how long are the shows usually?
An hour and 20, hour 40. Like I said, as a producer and the host, it's kind of my job to navigate the show. We've been lucky to the point where like it's just laughed the whole way through every show so far.
That's a lot of laughter.
So if they go a little longer, it's okay. It's not. No one's really dying up there yet.
Oh, very good. And so you're talking you're booking maybe 5 to 6 acts a night? 6,
7, yeah. Me, as the host, and I do a couple jokes in between. So yeah.
So you get your writing in too. That would be my next question. It's like, do you have a set yourself, or are you just hosting? And because that's a big deal, like when you're a curator, people literally look to you as like the guy, or you're them. Like it means like you represent them to take them through the evening.
Yeah, you are the conductor of the train. Absolutely. I write a new set for every show, and I improv a lot of it. My house shows, I improv a lot of what I talk about. Like the other day, I had gone to get a haircut, and I literally did like 2 or 3 minutes on what it's like to be the only white guy in a Dominican barbershop getting a fade. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't write that. I just lived it, and I talked about it.
So you just didn't take off a hat and either laugh or you didn't your haircut, or
no. But in case you'd listen, and I take a lot of pride in my hair, and it looks really nice right now.
Well, for those just listening to the podcast, he looks very nice. If you can't see it, So that's a lot of work. So how often do you do your shows?
Every other week.
Okay.
Every other Saturday.
Gotcha. And how do people find out about your shows?
As of right now, like I'm putting up flyers, and I'm posting on Facebook. I'm posting on Instagram. I'm posting on display. people ask me, how do you get to people? And my secret is I text everyone I know about 3 times in 2 weeks to remind them that I have a show coming up on Saturday. You know,
That's great. Very word of mouth.
It's a lot of word of mouth at this point. Yeah,
That's great. That's very good. Well, I just for our audiences, feel free to share it with us, and we can share it with our group people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the name of my spot is called The Laughing Pad. I have an Instagram page,
Which is
The Laughing Pad.
there you go.
My name is Rory Lutz. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I have TikToks, all of that stuff.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, we'll definitely put that in the details of this episode so people can find you guys. Now I also understand, correct me if I'm wrong, because I do pay attention to the world and what's happening uptown and beyond. It's my job to know, because that's what I've done. And as Ken and other people who've known Inwood Artworks for a long time, that's how I started. I started doing vaudeville and variety shows in the back porch of my apartment building. So I create, because there is no proper venue for performing arts up here in the neighborhood. And I say neighborhood, I mean 242 to 168. Really,
yeah, we talked
other
about
other than 3,000 seat United Palace, which is lovely, but I don't think you can afford just afford having a security guard on for the night might be too much for us, let alone turning the lights on.
Yeah.
So it's great for the big bus and truck shows, but we're not Adele or anything like that. So or Lauryn Hill or anything like that, which is, and power to them, of course, but not for our budgets. I started doing vaudeville and variety shows, and oddly enough, I used to close with music every night, not open with music in my studio, because I always wanted to send people off feeling good. But we had, unlike yours in a way, we had it was a true mix. I call it cabinet of curiosities, if you will.
What's coming up next?
You could find, but the thing is, like, I would never tell anybody who's on, so they would trust my curation. Unlike yours, where you're telling people what's going on, they would just show up. My thing was like, you would show up, and it was word of mouth. We did have a Facebook page, and if you got on our mailing list, we sent word out to you, but it was a very select few of a couple hundred people or so. But we did share it. We didn't try to be too secret, but it was very much like a speakeasy kind of feel, where you'd show up not knowing, and we'd have, a case of beer and wine in the back for people. And your ticket was, first off, it was free, and then it was, $10 or something, because we hit capacity every night. Yeah. So there's literally no more room to put people on there. So, but we went, one night you would show up and you would see, a magician, perhaps a Japanese kabuki dance show. You'd see singer-songwriters. You'd see a new 10-minute play by a local. But the thing what we did was very much about uptowners, which is slightly different than yours. We used that people wouldn't come from far and wide to perform. We had a friend of mine from actually Brooklyn read from his horror novel and things like that. So, but yes, comics for sure. And so I'd say I see a little young Aaron Sims in you. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just telling you right now, beware. You may end up running your own nonprofit eventually.
Hey, you're a guy. You're the type of dude that inspires guys like me, man.
Thank
that
you.
Story alone is just enough to keep me running probably for a few extra months. It's like most of the people I bump into, like, they're supportive of this apartment show idea, right? But you don't ever bump into anyone who's had the balls to do it.
Well, I'm not going to speak about my nether regions on the podcast, but I'll thank you for saying so. And I hear the grapevine, and thank you, I appreciate the compliment. Yeah. But is it true that you also found a place to do it outside of your apartment? Yeah.
So the goal is, in the beginning, was always to build and branch out, right? You start with 10, 20, 30, and I can't fit more than 30 in my apartment. So I have a partner, a friend, his name is Miller Rogue, and he and I are just canvassing the neighborhood, trying to find decent spots. And he's Mexican restaurant, taco spots, coffee spots that just, Beans and Vines. We were running a show there for a little while.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Great.
very
Alex
small.
Is great.
Yeah, it's a great venue, great place, but I think that we needed to move out of there for whatever reasons.
I think they're closed now.
They're closed, yeah, financial
why.
reasons, I believe.
That's the main reason.
You know what,
Unfortunately, they're closed.
In all fairness to
which
them,
is just
they're having trouble.
sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, it just sucks. Pandemic casualty.
and we were trying to help out by bringing some,
Yeah,
at least the
yeah,
comics
no,
can buy a
it's
drink, and
great.
it
It's
didn't
great.
work. But now we found a spot. Cami Modern Kitchen is on 183rd Street and Broadway,
Okay.
and they have a very nice private space above the bar.
Okay.
That seats about 25.
All right.
So
Let's give it a shot. When's your
we're
first
going
show?
for it.
Do you have it planned?
Coming up Thursday, September 22nd at 8 p.m. is going to be our first show.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And I'm
All right.
excited. And the owner is very excited. And my co-producer is very excited.
September 22nd. I don't know if we'll get this podcast up
No,
by
that's
then,
okay. Yeah,
but,
we're going to be doing it
we'll do our
the
best.
last Thursday. Right now, we're scheduled to do it the last Thursday of every month.
Oh, okay. That's great. So that's better.
It's going to be
people know.
monthly. The goal is to show Israel is the owner's name of Cami Modern Kitchen. He's a gentleman. The menu's great. He's been so wonderful. Like, we're really hoping to, like, maybe make
Wonderful.
this twice a month,
Very
at some
good.
point.
Well, there's actually a place for it in the community, and I'll just also give two little shout outs here to two friends of mine who are also wonderful comedians in their own right. Eric Vedder, who's done No Name for years at Word Up, and he used to do it in Queens. Kevin Barry used to do the Dope Show at Parkview.
I remember
for,
the Dope
for,
Show.
for years as well. Parkview's no longer doing Dope, but Kevin's still very much. He actually performed for us this summer, opened one of our al fresco shows, and then Eric is a legend. He's still around, doing great work in our community. Just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Eric! So it's great. I love to say that high tide raises all boats, and so it's great that you're adding your hat to the ring and bringing more joy to our uptown community. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
You're welcome, man. There seems to be a huge vacuum of no comedy, like you said, above 168th Street. There just is nothing here.
Well, that's what I did. That's is why long story short, for the part B of the Back Porch Show is that I was starting the idea of saying, I live here, and there's all these crazy talented people living in our neighborhood, and this is what Inwood Artworks is about, is champion local artists, and by doing so, guess what? A local arts-going audience showed up. And so you kind of did, it's like, to me, I was doing two things at the same time without knowing it, but just habitually. So it was great saying, okay, so I can, there is an audience for it here, and so why go downtown when we possess not only the audiences but the awesome artists here who could hopefully earn a couple shekels? And I did pay people to perform when we built up to it beyond the free show. We get $50 here or there. It's not a lifesaver, but something at least as a stipend, because we had zero budget for this whole thing. I feel like this. We're using. I think it's great that congratulations to Cami for helping you out. Use the neighborhood as a canvas to create. Like, we started doing our Inwood Film Festival above a Dispatch on 214 10th Avenue, our first festival. And now we're using with Columbia. We started doing our filmmakers al fresco in the parks, and we've done it in 4 different parks, and we just did one at 168 in Haven Plaza. And so word gets out, so I'm saying we've taken over dormant commercial space like Dominican nightclubs and restaurants that have closed, and turned them into performing arts venues and galleries. So I'll just say, find your niche and keep going at it, and whatever works for you, it works. But I think, I'm living proof. You have to be a dreamer and a doer, and a lot of dreamers out there who have great ideas that don't follow through, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I appreciate you doing what you're doing, and I say, I'm living proof it can happen. So keep it going, man. All right.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. It's been fun, but it hasn't been easy.
It will never be easy. I hate to break it to you.
I'd like to let people know that a lot of producers lose money in the beginning of ventures.
Yeah.
So we really do care about providing it. When someone's losing money, that they're in it for the right
and there's
reasons.
some great restaurants too to support people. Like, for instance, I'll call out a few good local vendors like Jazz Wahai, Mark and Louise we've had on the podcast. They perform at Kismet restaurant on 187-ish in the world in Pinehurst, all that area, Fort Wash actually.
I live right there. I'm a block away from right
and
there.
LaKayla has sponsored things in the past. I feel there's Inwood Farm / Indian Road Cafe has been a spot for artists in the past. So we've done stuff there. Amore's Cafe does great stuff on Tuesday nights. I think Canave does as well on Broadway and Thera-ish. Sorry, Arden Thera. Can't recall off the top of my head. So there's a lot of people. There's a lot of, I think, people who do really want the local community to reinvest in themselves. And that's what I like about what you're doing, too. It's like it's up here, and not every performer has to be from up here, but the fact of the matter, it's happening here is a major thing, and that the local uptown community has yet another opportunity and arts entertainment option.
That's the whole point. I'm doing it up here.
That's great. So the real question is, you say you're a really good writer and a comic. What does your son think about your work?
Well, he's probably the funniest guy in the family, to be honest with you. But he gets his sense of humor from me, so he wouldn't have it if I wasn't born with it.
Your son's name is Axel.
His Axel Hudson Lutz, yeah.
And how old is he?
He's going to be 8 in October.
8?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's already writing jokes, and he's funny, and he's got perfect comedic timing. And even as I speak about him, he's sitting in the corner. He couldn't be bothered to look up. Look at him. He's a sweet kid, though. He's a natural comedian. He enjoys making people laugh, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like father, like son.
Yeah. Well, he's a lot like his mom, too, so he's a sweetheart.
Oh, that's nice to say. That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have him on the show in a few years.
Chances are he's going to be the funniest human being walking on Earth at some point.
But will he be the tallest? We'll be able to do your show.
He's going to be taller than I am, that's for sure. I'm lucky to be 5'10" at this point.
Well, Rory, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And before we say goodbye, any current and forthcoming projects? So you have just sum up here. We have the 22nd next week. Then the last Thursday of the month, you said, is what's going to be for Cami?
It's going to be the last Thursday of the month at Cami Modern Kitchen right now. The Laughing Pad is running shows every other weekend. We're having the 24th, then October 8th, October 22nd, November 5th, November 19th.
And Laughing Pad is a Facebook page too?
It has an Instagram page. I haven't set up a Facebook page
yet.
Yeah, but you can find me on Facebook. My name is Rory Lutz.
Very good.
I'm always all over it.
Trying to find ways of connecting people to your work is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
here,
I get it. Yeah, I'm
very
with you.
good.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, listeners, we'll put some of those links in our description of our episode, like
Perfect.
I said before. Thanks again to Rory Lutz here for joining me on this Artist Spotlight episode of Inwood Artworks On Air, where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here in Inwood, New York City for hosting us, and to HideSites.com for local uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate and via Venmo. You can support On Air and follow us here on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up with all that we do, including the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, public art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.